If you're looking for more content like this, check out mwpnews.com or bewareofspoilers.com. Welcome to Beware of Spoilers. I am Adam. Hawkeye. See, here's the thing. I don't want to come off as biased, because out of the gate, I kind of expressed my misgivings about Hawkeye. Namely that, the trailers didn't paint a picture that I would have needed to necessarily have Clint in this show for it to work. And I think that's kind of a misfire. If you have a show and the titular character, and I understand what this show is going to be. This show is designed to pass the torch, as it were, from Clint to Kate. That's the point of the show, it's kind of like how Captain America, or Falcon and the Winter Soldier, was about, passing the torch from Steve to Sam, and then Sam grappling with what that means. WandaVision was about Wanda dealing with the effects of Endgame, and then coming into her own as her own hero, or in this case, probably villain, going forward, and doing that. And Loki was about bringing Loki back to life. But all of these shows kind of feel like you don't need to have seen them to get to the next part. I don't need to have seen WandaVision to understand Doctor Strange into the Multiverse of Madness, I don't feel. Because WandaVision kind of, while it is self-contained, it's like, well, what are we going to get to at the end of this show? Okay, Wanda is going to, be upset. I think of the shows, that's probably the most required, but, Loki doesn't feel necessary, because it's like we saw Loki get resurrected. Sam, we saw accept the shield at the end of Endgame, so passing it off back to the government and then reclaiming it is part of his character arc, to be sure, but at the same time, not something that we have to grapple with, to understand where we're going. Now, if we look at, where we are going with, with Wanda, with Hawkeye, I think if Kate Bishop just showed up, it wouldn't be as weird, if she was just taking the place of Clint, because it's we got introduced to Clint in media res, and we didn't need to have an explanation as to who Clint is, what is Clint doing here, why is Clint here, and all of that. That said, I feel like, I feel like this show kind of needs to, not have Clint there. I'm sorry. But here's the thing. The quote-unquote glue we're going to have linking this into the mainline MCU as we know it is going to be the introduction of Yelena. We know Yelena's going to be there because the post-credit scene from Black Widow had her meet, Madam Hydra, and then on top of that, Florence Pugh's been on the press tour, so we know she's going to be there at some point. And this show that could be the cohesive way to get her introduced into this wider world. She could be her Nick Fury. I don't think we necessarily need Clint there to do that, especially considering we meet her, and it's she already knows how to do a lot. We see her, that's the thing, it's her watching Clint is kind of the moment of Wonder Woman on the, as a kid, kind of the moment of Wonder Woman watching on the cliffside as they're training and then miming along with it. That's kind of her moment. That's kind of similar. And I think that's, a cool moment, but again, I don't think that you necessarily need him to be a main character, because for the first 2 episodes, it's kind of like he's there because you're expecting Hawkeye to be there for this show. He hasn't had an active, point on the plot yet, because the plot is, he comes to New York City to see, Rogers the Musical, which I cringed into next week watching. I'm sorry. Maybe it's just me. And maybe I'm in the minority on that. But it's dumb. I'm sorry. And this is what happens when we go to these series formats where it's like we get this dumb bullshit like that. Like, a lot of what happened in WandaVision was dumb and silly, and it's just like, that's not what I'm here for. Just give me make it a cohesive 7 episodes or a cohesive 5 episodes and maybe cut out some of that shit. Like, with this, it's 6, and you're still padding the runtime with that. You're padding the runtime with him going to this live-action role-playing thing to try and get the Ronin armor. And it's like, it just kind of feels silly and like they're trying to kill time. And ultimately, that's what Clint's plotline up until this point has felt like. It's like, well, we need to kill some time, so what do we do? Oh, okay, here's what we'll do. He will go and help to get the Ronin armor back. Why? Reasons? Because, like, at the end of the day, like, he gets the armor back, and then he's like, okay, now I gotta go meet the Tracksuit Mafia, and then it's like, well, you know, if you're gonna do that, and then set the record straight that way, then all that time we spent at this live-action role-playing thing is pointless. Especially considering that, like, okay, well, now we know who, like, they know who Ronin is, and yeah, there are other people who are gonna want to get revenge on Ronin, but it feels kind of pointless. And the thing is, too, there was a path to do this properly and not have it feel weird. What could have been done is just, you know, Kate gets the Ronin outfit, and, you know, and then is in that situation, and then has to fend for herself. Hawkeye doesn't need to be there at all. And, like, if she just is wearing the outfit when they get attacked by the Tracksuit Mafia at her apartment, she could just leave in the outfit. She doesn't need to have Clint there. Like, none of this is necessary for Clint to be there. And you could have this story where it's like she needs to come into her own as a hero, and she gets mixed up in this on her own, and she gotta do it all herself, and, you know, that would work, but it seems they're too bogged down to making sure Jeremy Renner gets his screen time. They could have done without Jeremy Renner entirely, and there's nothing in these first 2 episodes that have shown me anything about it. And the thing is, too, it's like, I don't understand why Linda Cardinelli didn't go to New York as well, because there's no reason why. I mean, I'm assuming it has something to do with, like, availability, like schedule availability, to shoot that. But from a narrative reason, they don't really give a reason why she didn't go to New York with her kids and husband. And it's not like they're divorced, which would have been a understandable thing. I don't know. I just feel like these first 2 episodes were kind of a misfire. Like, I love the way that Haley Steinfeld plays Kate, because there's a certain, like, dry sarcasm, and there are a few laugh-out-loud moments. There are a few really good jokes, like, you know, when he gets, you know, captured, quote-unquote, because he gives himself up, and he's just, like, talking to him, like, look, I came here on my own, because, and they're like, no, you didn't, and it's like, when they're kidnapping him, and he's like, guys, I can see through the bag. Like, it's all kind of like, he's grizzled, he's done it before, and he knows what he's doing, but that's not, like, his whole attitude of, I don't care, I want to just get this over with and be done with it and go back home, like, that's cool. And if you're going for, like, a Lethal Weapon vibe between the two of them, I guess that works, but I don't feel like this necessarily needs, you know, I don't need these, like, I don't need Clint there. You can do the show without Clint, and it would be just as interesting. Because on her own, we know that Haley Steinfeld can hold her own. She got the stage presence to do this on her own. Like, she can do, like, she was the lead in Bumblebee, where she's acting against a CGI robot. Like, she was, you know, Pitch Perfect 2 and 3 she was in. And she's holding her own against some, you know, major talent in those movies. And that's, you know, a big deal. So, she doesn't need to be handheld by Hawkeye. I think that's fundamentally my biggest issue with this, is that, you know, you're doing this show and you're making sure that Jeremy Renner is there, but all he's done so far is pad the runtime out to be an hour long instead of a half hour long, when the episodes could have been a half hour long and just been Kate figuring this out on her own. Especially considering her mom owns a security company and she can do all the tech stuff herself. So there's really no need for Clint to be there. Hopefully in the ensuing episodes they prove me wrong, and it's like, oh, here's why Clint is there. This is what happened, like, that Clint needs to be there. Otherwise, she would get in trouble and there would be some problem. Like, her putting the butterfly Band-Aid on the cut wrong is not enough reason for Clint to be there. I'm sorry. So we'll wrap up there for today. Tomorrow we will have The Flash Armageddon Part 2. And yeah, we'll be back with that. And until then, have a great rest of your week. Welcome to Beware Spoilers. I am Adam. This is now my second attempt because the first attempt, I thought it wasn't going right, but it turns out it was, which is always one of those things that hurts a little bit because, you can't go back and listen while you're recording, so you have to stop and then go back, and I'm recording it on the Spreaker Studio app, so you kind of have to either record the entire thing or go back and redo it. So, Hawkeye episode 3 we're going to talk about. And I want to just make one thing clear because I don't know if harsh is the right word about episodes 1 and 2, but I was not particularly nice about episodes 1 and 2. And I think that, if Hawkeye's definitely better than What If. It's not as good as Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It's not as good as WandaVision. It's I would say about as good as Loki. And I think it has some of the same narrative overriding purpose as Loki. So I see, here's the thing. This episode seems to be playing that game where it's like, we've been down this road before with Marvel, where it's like we're teasing a character, that if the character shows up, it's like, oh, cool, that character showed up, but then if it doesn't, it's like, oh, well, I was expecting X, Y, and Z to happen, and then X, Y, and Z didn't happen, so why didn't this happen? So, I think that's an important little thing to note, where it's like we're expecting this and now this is not going to happen. And I'm referring to how they keep referring to Echo's uncle, Echo's boss, the person above Echo who is the one in charge. She's not the one in charge. There's someone above her who's really in charge, and they're the one you don't want to mess with. If you get them mad, there's going to be problems, and it's a whole thing that is kind of overriding over the course of the entire episode, and it keeps getting referred to over the course of the entire episode. And I think that what this is building towards is it's not building towards Fisk, because there's no way they're going through all this effort to build up someone and it be someone entirely new, especially as we're headed into the final 3 episodes. We're halfway done, and you still have a promise to finish about, the introduction of Yelena. Because we know Yelena's coming for Clint, because that was happening in the post-credit scene of Black Widow, and we know that's going to happen here. Otherwise, it seems like a waste to do it there, because they don't tend to tease things that aren't somewhat imminent. And especially when it comes to like a TV show, if they don't know they're getting a second season, or if it's just going to be a 6-episode mini event, then it seems like a waste to set it up there and then have it come to a head elsewhere. And I will maintain that I think it would have been more interesting if, Clint wasn't there, and Hawkeye, Hawkeye, when she goes to fight Hawkeye, because she sees the Ronin on TV, she ends up fighting Kate. I think that would have been a more interesting conflict than her fighting Clint. But that's not the point of what we're talking about. But the point is, there's a point to that. We are now 3 episodes in the finale, and based on where this episode leaves off, and everything else that needs to kind of happen by the end for us to have a satisfying conclusion, that's a lot of groundwork that needs to be laid. Like, there's a lot of stuff that needs to happen, and I think if we're going to introduce an entirely new character in this show, we kind of need to not, like, that would be not a great idea, because you won't have time to develop this character, and the character kind of would become one-dimensional. It's, oh, this person, well, we know it's a he, is above Echo, and that's all we really know about this character. And it's like, if they introduce us a nobody, that doesn't really make sense. It's not like the aerospace engineer who's just bringing one thing to Monica, and it's like, oh, well, if it's a nobody or if it's somebody, it works either way. This has to be somebody because of the role they're having in the plot. It's kind of like if they were to introduce, like, I don't even know, but like similar to Loki in so much as Loki is about reintroducing Loki and kind of, I refer to Loki as the prelude to Phase 4, because it kind of is this, like, here's what the new overriding, villain's going to be, here's what we're going to be dealing with, here's kind of, like, where we're going from here. Now that the Infinity Saga is over, multiverse shenanigans, for lack of a better word, is the new, paradigm we have to deal with. And Loki does that. I think that, like, the smart thing to do would be to kind of split the MCU into two main camps, where it's like, the more human and grounded characters who can't hold their own against gods, that they are off dealing with, what's it called? They're off dealing with the various, okay, I guess go around me, I guess. They're dealing with, like, Wilson Fisk on the ground level, while the big money, cosmic level, people are dealing with the bigger threats. Because, like, if they bring in Kang the Conqueror, or like, let's say they bring in Korvac, or like when the Eternals do come back and they're fighting Celestials, what the fuck is, like, Daredevil or Hawkeye or whatever going to do against them? And the answer is nothing. It's like, it's kind of like, we in the beginning we kind of needed Hawkeye to be the beating heart of the Avengers, quote unquote, as much as Joss Whedon tried to shove that down our throat. And I think that you don't necessarily need that in the future. I mean, yeah, when they do a huge crossover event, they're going to have everyone there. It's not just going to be, like, these little, like, the big guys are going to leave out. Like, they're not going to not bring in Kate Bishop, because I think there's a lot of love for Kate Bishop. I know I am really loving a lot of the choices that Haley Steinfeld is making to play the over-arrogant and, like, over-eager at the same time, like protege. And I think that like, she's doing an excellent job. And I think that for the first time in this, Clint is starting to grow on me as a character, in the same way that, like, a cancer would, I guess, where it's like, I don't necessarily have a deep affection for him, but in this role as the aged, grizzled, like, I've seen all this before mentor, I think he works. But I don't particularly, need to see him in another Avengers movie. And the thing is, too, it's like, if this episode ends with, if this series ends with his death, I don't think it will, because I don't think that's the way this show goes. But I think that if it ends with his death, that's a huge misfire on their part. I think it's just going to end with his retirement. I think that's where we're going to be at the end of this. This episode is some of the best action we've seen across any of the Disney Plus Marvel shows. It's definitely the most fun to watch, and using all the trick arrows is cool. It's kind of something that's been missing from Hawkeye in the MCU up until this point, where it's like, we don't really have him, doing things besides shooting arrows at stuff. I will admit, and maybe it's just me, but if I was Marvel, and this show's going into development at the same time Arrow is ending, I would have brought in some consultants from Arrow, for how to do, fight sequences with a bow and arrow. I'm not saying that the fight sequences that they do in the KB toys are not, well done. But I'm not saying I've seen better, but I would definitely have consulted, because, a lot of the stuff feels kind of like, I don't want to say rudimentary, but maybe like season 1 Arrow before they had stunt coordinators who were really, devoted to that, doing things. I don't know. I feel like it's a little bit of a, not a misfire per se, or an unforced error. Those aren't the right words. But, I feel like the show could have done better with that action sequence. But the car chase and the cinematography in the car chase is just fantastic. And I think that's really what turned me around on the show, where it's like, we are going to do something so totally unique and so totally different from anything else we had ever done in this universe, that you will have to take notice. And that is, that there are good massive swaths of that are just long tracking shots. Like, you're sitting in the back seat with them, and the way the camera pans and moves and all of that, it adds a level of, fanaticism or frantic. It makes it feel more chaotic. As it's as the camera moves, and it's like, okay, what's over here, what's over here, what's over here? Because now you don't know what's going on around you. It's like you're in the scene, and it works to tremendous effect. And the way that Clint and Kate communicate in that scene, when Clint can't hear her, is also great too. I think taking away Clint's hearing was an interesting wrinkle to add to the character. And I think that was something I didn't quite, shine a light on enough in the first 2 episodes, was the way that they did that and kind of explained away how he lost his hearing is great, where it's it's like, oh, how did you lose your hearing? And it just shows him going through explosions from all the other movies, and it's being around really loud things all the time, and he's like, it's unclear. It's like, oh yeah, he's a human. That would have that physical toll on his body. That is completely understandable. And I really don't, I was not expecting to, have this, affection for this character, but he's starting to grow on me, which is weird to say, considering he's been in the role for, 10 years now, but he's had such a small role. It's alright, whatever, it's Hawkeye, he's there, and it's well, what's he, what does he do? He's got the bow and arrow, and he shoots things, and now we see him in a more resourceful role, instead of just basically sniper, which is cool. Yeah, I think this is the episode where the show really finds its footing, and I think that's really because the first 2 episodes were kind of light on action and light on, reasons to care. Because, I don't really necessarily care about, what's it called? I don't necessarily care about, Clint enough, where him going after the Ronin suit, and again, he has the Ronin suit back, and the Ronin suit is now in storage somewhere, and now he's got to help, because now Kate's involved in tracksuit mafia nonsense, and all of that. I kind of, now we feel like we have a reason for Clint to be there, but I still would have liked from the beginning to have his story more closely entwined. Fuck me. No, I had a full can of soda fall on the side of my seat. It didn't spill. It was just, it rolled off my seat. I would have liked to see his story more intimately entwined with Kate's from the beginning, so it wasn't kind of an afterthought, oh shit, we gotta tie these together somehow, let's do this, which is kind of what it felt like. But that's, at this point, now they are together, and now there's a reason for them to be together, so I'll accept it. So yeah, we'll wrap up there for today. We'll be back tomorrow with Power of the Dog. And yeah, so until then, have a great rest of your week. Welcome to Beware of Spoilers. I am Adam. I feel the need to do this again because I did it yesterday on 30-minute reviews, and really it was I put out the call first on Beware of Spoilers the first day, and that would be thank you to everyone who went out and bought Swan Song. We capped out in the top 50. I think we were number 46 on the bestseller list in superhero fantasy. And if you still want to get Swan Song, the first book of the trilogy, it is available for free until the end of the day tomorrow. It is through the end of the day Friday. You can get it for free. You don't need to read it. You can just add it to your library and then read it whenever you feel like. It's not like you need to do it right now. It's not like a library book where you're like, fuck, I got to do this immediately. But no, you can get it, you can add it to your library, and you can read it at your leisure. And you can get it quick if you go to bit.ly/ATSWANSONG, and that will bring you directly to the book, and you can add it to your library. It is completely free to add to your library. You have to do literally nothing. It goes right to your Kindle library, and it is there forever. And it is totally and completely free. And then next week, Duet will be free. So if you read it and you like it, you can pick up Duet next week, and you can add the second book in the trilogy for free. And again, totally free. bit.ly/ATSWANSONG. And that will give you a free copy. So let's dive into today's topic, Hawkeye, which I don't think there's been a Marvel show, or really any show, besides, like, I'm getting the Flash Season 5 vibes, but arguably better than, well, not arguably better, like, the Flash Season 5 has a profound issue when it comes to the fact that Cicada is not a season-long villain. Cicada is at best, a two-part villain that gets dispatched and handled by the end of the second episode, not a full thing where it's like, oh no, he keeps taking our powers, how do we get around this? Gee, how do we figure this out? Like, you know, by the time we get to the 100th episode, which I think was the mid-season finale, which is past his prologue is the name of the episode, you're like, oh, well, you know, why didn't he breach it to another planet, or to an alternate Earth, or, like, I don't know, anywhere the fuck else, like, instead of breaching it just to, like, low Earth orbit. Like, even if he breached it, like, to fucking, like, you know, the remnants of Krypton, or to, like, fucking, or, like, if Krypton, I think Krypton's probably still there at Earth 1 at that point, but, like, if he breached it, like, you know, anywhere the fuck else in deep space, like, it would have worked better. It didn't have to be, like, in the, like, just outside of the Earth's atmosphere. Like, that's a clusterfuck. It's stupid. But, you know, what that is, it's, you know, oh, we need an excuse to keep coming back each week, and then for them to continue having to fight the same villain. And when we look at, like, the show, what's it called? Like, when we look at Hawkeye, which is what we're talking about today, by the time we get to episode 4, it feels like, not that we're redoing the same thing over and over again. It's not like that. It's not like in Jessica Jones, where we get to a point in Jessica Jones where they have Kilgrave captured, and then nothing happens that entire episode, and then Kilgrave escapes at the end, and it's like, you just, all it does is make your characters look incompetent. It doesn't progress the story, because it's like, if I can sit here on my couch and watch and be like, well, here are 10 ways that they could have avoided this happening, like, it's not serving your characters well. It's just not. So, what we have here in this show is, they're not doing that, thankfully. But they are really showing us a bunch of shit we don't need to see. Like, we don't need to see Clint and Kate hanging out, because I think this is Clint's last outing. I think this is the end of Clint as Hawkeye, and like, I don't think he continues on past this point. I don't think the character needs to continue on past this point. So, like, to say that, like, you know, we're gonna sit here and we're gonna see the two of them bonding and all of that, it's like, it's kind of pointless. Like, the only thing in that episode that really, needed to be there, and this is an assumption based on probably where this show is going to go after this point, and really a hope under, the rule of Chekhov's gun, is the coin flicking thing, where he flicks a coin and it turns off the TV and it hits something else and does something else. And then she learns how to do it too. Like, that's the only thing that's really of importance in this entire episode, because if they showed that and it doesn't come into play, then the entire episode's a wash. Because, like, we don't need to have run out of trick arrows. There is no narrative reason why he needed to have run out of trick arrows. Like, it could have just been, oh, he has more. Like, the costumes, cool, I get it, and that's what they're doing. This is their version of asking the Wakandans to build a suit for Sam. This is, we need to get a new suit. Fuck me. Nope, they're not coming in. Like, we need a new suit for Hawkeye, so, he's got to, we need an excuse to get in the new suit. We need an organization to give him said new suit. And it's like, well, what are we going to do to accomplish this? We're going to bring back the LARPers from the earlier episode. And it's like, well, what the fuck? Why are we even bothering with the fucking LARPers? Like, it doesn't make the LARPers earlier in the season more useful. It still makes that a waste of time and an exercise in, trying my patience as a viewer, where it's like, I don't want to watch Hawkeye fake fight his way through a bunch of assholes who think it's medieval times. I'm sorry, I don't want to see that. I'm not watching a Hawkeye show to watch that. Like, I'm not watching a Hawkeye show to watch Hawkeye watch a musical version of the Avengers. Like, I would have rather they just released a musical version of the Avengers the way they did there, and just put it out. And it was just out, and it could have been, viewed on Disney Plus. Like, had they done that, I would have been more on board. I wouldn't have watched it. Like, it's cringy and it's stupid and it's not something I would have, sat down and watched. But at least I would have had the option to not watch it and not have it sit here and take up fucking 5 to 10 minutes of screen time, dealing with the aftermath of this fucking show. Like, I'm sorry, it's not a necessity. It's not, like, there is very clearly a path for this show to have been a movie. And I think there's even a way that this show could have been edited into a 2.5 hour runtime. Like, you don't need to sit here and stretch it out just to make it into a series. We don't need it to be a series. It's fine. It can be a movie. And it's like, look, I get it. I understand what we're going for, but we don't need it to be a series. I'm sorry. Like, we've introduced plenty of Avengers. Like, we introduced fucking Scarlet Witch as an afterthought in a fucking Avengers movie. Like, we don't need an entire series and stretched out in this way, where it's like, we're just wasting time. Like, literally, like, my life is ending a minute at a time, and you're having me sit here watch them fucking watch movies in Christmas sweaters? Like, come on. Like, I think Hawkeye has had the most humanization of all the Avengers, and I think if anyone needs it, it's not fucking him. And it's like, here's the thing. Let's talk about the two big, question moments from this. Yelena and, we knew Yelena was coming. It's not a surprise that Yelena was coming, because, fucking Black Widow ended with Yelena getting told by, whatever the fuck her name is, Julia Louis-Dreyfus' character, who's Madam Hydra, giving her an iPad that's like, here's your target. Like, if you want revenge for killing your sister, this is who I want you to go kill. And it's a picture of Hawkeye. And it's like, okay, well, that makes sense. But there's a path through this show. And it would have made the show into a movie if Jeremy Renner's not there at all. Because all you had to do was had Kate go to the thing, find the Ronin outfit, and then from there, she's going through as Ronin, and then she needs to learn about Clint going through this, and then making the reverse transformation back to Hawkeye. Then she encounters Yelena, who has now tracked her down based on the fact that she is, acting as Ronin in New York. And then that leads to this same conflict, but it does it in a much cleaner way. That's not making me sit through a fucking Avengers musical. Or making me sit through this fucking, like, going through the LARPing stuff. Or watching them hang out in an apartment. It's not necessary. It's a waste of time to show all of this. Like, it's not progressing the story. And it's like, I think Yelena I think that Yelena does, and I know that I said this initially, but, like, I think that Yelena could have just handled, could have just handled fighting, what's her name, on her own. Could have just handled fighting Kate on her own, without having to do an extra, having Clint there. But I think for closure, she probably does need, she probably does need a conflict with, a conflict with Clint. Because if she thinks that, Clint, if she thinks that Clint killed her, I think that it's a misservice to the character to, I don't know, it feels kind of like you could have done it either way, and it would have worked either way, and it's like, do we need to be here? Like, I literally feel like I'm asking these questions, and I'm like, is this necessary? Are we at a point where it's like, why are we doing this story in this way? Like, it doesn't necessarily make sense. It doesn't quite fit into what we need to use this story for. And ultimately, the point of the story is to introduce Yelena into, like, this show is gonna, and, like, there are gonna be two net results of this show. Introducing three. Introducing Kate Bishop to the world and having her be the new Hawkeye. That's number one. Number two, taking Yelena as we saw her in Black Widow and reintroducing her into this new world and making her part of the broader picture. That's objective number two. And objective number three is establishing a kind of criminal underworld element that's not, purely cosmic villains, which is kind of what the Avengers have been dealing with. Like, they say, oh, we're busting up arms dealers in Age of Ultron, but at the end of the day, it's like, they're not really dealing with that all that often. It's like, Hydra is still a global threat. Like, they need more regional threats and things that'll create stakes on a smaller scale. Like, we don't need, and I think that's kind of, like, Kingpin is a huge threat, don't get me wrong, but that's where we're going with this, is that, we are going to build towards a Wilson Fisk. We're going to build towards other street-level villains who are going to be a longer and overriding threat, and especially with the comments of Kevin Feige this week about Charlie Cox coming back as Daredevil when Daredevil does return, it does seem like, they do have plans for these street-level heroes to do more than just this kind of stuff. And it makes sense, because, look, I understand completely the idea that we need to have a grounding agent, and we need someone who is, there and ready and willing to fight, these big cosmic bad guys like, Black Widow and like Hawkeye and like Sam, who are just people who are doing the right thing. Even Tony is just a person in a suit of armor. If you rip the suit of armor off, you can just stab him like anyone else. Same thing with Rhodey. Like, they're just humans. They may have these things, but they're still putting themselves in harm's way. And I think that, like, if we take, like, Black Widow, who doesn't have the suit of armor, who doesn't have the, all of that. Same thing with Hawkeye. The Hawkeye just has trick arrows and stuff like that. I don't think that you necessarily need, you need them on that scale. Because now Captain America isn't a super soldier anymore. He's just a guy who believes in what he believes, and he believes in doing the right thing. And we don't, like, I think at this point you can kind of dissociate the cosmic level threats from the street level threats and not have to worry about what's what I'm looking for here, like feeling like something's missing. You can do kind of a split A-B and do that kind of thing. Like, you don't have to have the Punisher going off to fight like fucking Korvac or anything. Like, he can kind of hang out. Like, you don't need him to hang out and fight the Dark Phoenix. It's, he's content dealing with the criminal underworld. Same thing with Daredevil. I don't need, like, that's why I think to an extent I didn't really bump into Daredevil not appearing at the end of Endgame. I know some people had a problem, like, oh, you didn't bring in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or any of that. And it's like, what the fuck were they gonna do? Like, honestly, like, we have enough people here who shouldn't be here for this fight. Like, Hawkeye being one of them, like, we have enough of these people. You don't need to have, you know, a small platoon of people who shouldn't be there, and then on top of it, like, you don't necessarily need like, we don't need Daredevil to fight. We don't need Jessica Jones to fight. Like, arguably Daredevil should be there the least. I mean, you can make a case for Jessica Jones and Iron Fist and Luke Cage, but come on, like, it is what it is at this point. And then what was the other thing I wanted to address? I don't know. It's like, here's the thing. This could have been done as a movie, and I think it would have been better served as a movie, even if it was just a Disney Plus movie, and it wasn't like a full-fledged, like, theatrical release. Because you could have still done this on a budget. You could have still done this without worrying about anything like that. But, like, I mean, I just don't understand why why it needed to be as long as it is. Like, it could have been you could have done a 4-episode miniseries and been done with it. It doesn't need to be as long as it is. Everything wrong with the show comes down to the fact that it's too long, and 6 episodes is too much time. And now it's like, oh, episode 5 is going to be cool, and it's like, yeah, okay, awesome, like, it's cool that episode's going to be good, but, like, what about everything else? And it's like, look, at this point, episode 5 has to be introducing Kingpin. We're at that point now where you have to introduce Kingpin. Otherwise, you're just kind of not doing anything. Like, you can't... And the thing is, too, I know how this is going to work. It's going to be... Kate doesn't want to give up helping Clint, so that Clint's going to go off and try and hunt down Yelena to find out where she is, and find out who she's working for, and all of that, on top of the Tracksuit Mafia doing their thing. And now the show is becoming way too convoluted, unless they start shortchanging some plot lines. Like, what's going on with the Tracksuit Mafia? That's going to become... And that's the thing, too, is you're wasting all this time, and, like, you could have shown us Echo doing something. You could have done that, because Echo's getting backdoor piloted out of this show. Like, you could... Like, that was an option. That was very much an option. You could have shown Echo doing things. And how much would it suck if you were the person who was like, oh, I'm working on the Echo show. I don't think they've announced, like, showrunners or anything yet. But, like, oh, Echo's coming. And it's like, oh, by the way, we announced Echo to put that out there. But it's not. It's Daredevil Season 4. Which I think is a valid possibility to come out of this show. And I think that, like, when they do Echo, that's kind of what the announcement was for, is that it's like, No Way Home is going to reintroduce Matt Murdock, and then he's going to be an active player in Echo. And I think that's where this show's going. I think it's a cool idea, but, you know, if we got to sit through a fucking Hawkeye show to get there, like, is it worth it? Like... And the thing is, too, it's cool. I like the aesthetic of the ground level, you know, nonsense. I love the way it looks and the way it feels and all of that. But it's just, it's just you're taking too long to get to the point of the show. And there is world you can build that's not Clint and Kate sitting around watching movies. Because, like, that episode was 35 minutes and it was still too fucking long. Like, I'm sorry. There's so much fat that could be cut from this that it's kind of insulting that they didn't. So, yeah, so we'll wrap up there for today. Hawkeye's available for those of you who aren't watching along on Disney Plus if you want to watch along. It's up to episode 4 now, with a new episode coming next Wednesday, and then another episode coming the Wednesday after that, leading up to, leading up to Christmas, I believe. Or the week before Christmas is the last episode, and then there's the Legends thing. It'll be interesting to see if they do a Legends for, what's that called? Spider-Man, which I think is a possibility they don't, because it's not a Marvel production. But that's the one I'm most interested to see a Legends for. It's like, you know, or behind the studio, or whatever the hell they call it, like, Masterworks. I'm just making words up now to try and, you know, explain what this thing is called. I don't know what it's called, but yeah, we will wrap up there for today. I will catch up on Wheel of Time. I have been busy. I will catch up on Wheel of Time. And what was the other one? We have War, which is a Netflix series I'm going to marathon probably tonight. If not tonight, I will be, you know, watching it in the near future after that. Also, there is The Flash part 4 of Armageddon. I'll be watching. That'll definitely be watching tonight, so maybe tomorrow I'll end up watching Noir. Being the Ricardos and West Side Story. So a lot of fun things coming up this week. And next week I'm going to an advanced screening of Nightmare Alley, the new movie from Guillermo del Toro about it's an old what's it called? An old noir movie that got remade in 1946. So yeah, it's gonna be a fun time. So we'll be back with that, and until then, have a great rest of your week. Welcome to our spoilers. I am Adam. We are now on Hawkeye episode 5, and I think that I may be part of the problem here, where I'm willing to put aside everything, all of my misgivings about the show up until this point, because this is a very strong episode. And I think that a lot of that has to do with the fact that, regardless of the last, 12 seconds, where it's like after fucking around for so long, they just kind of are just like, yeah, that's the Kingpin. Where it's like, and when I say for so long, I mean they've been referencing a man above Echo since episode 3. There's someone pulling the strings above Echo, someone bigger and more powerful, and they've been referencing that throughout the show, almost since the beginning, and for them to be like, and then it's like, here he is, it's like, instead of being like, oh, who's that? It's just like, yeah, that's the Kingpin. I'm like, alright, cool, we're going to be upfront about this, we're going to acknowledge this. And I really like how they changed in the credits the view where it's, it's them on the rooftops, and then, it's in the shadow of Kingpin. That was really cool. For the rest of the episode, I mean, I like how people apparently were surprised that Yelena got blipped. I don't think that was necessarily a surprise, considering Florence Pugh hasn't aged in the last 6 months, and, there's been a 5-year time lapse, and they can't really just say, like, oh, and, she just looks exactly the same as she did in 2018, or even 2017, when that movie took place. But, yeah, that makes, I don't know why people were surprised by that. I don't know why that was something that people were like, oh my god, they blipped you. Yelena got blipped. I think the way they did it was cool, where she started to, fade away and then almost immediately come back, and then the room around her changes. Because this is the first time we've seen a blip in return from the perspective of someone who got blipped. When Monica came back, we don't see Monica dust away. We just see her return. In Far From Home, in Endgame, we don't see anyone return from the blip. They just show up. And in Far From Home, they just kind of show up in the, what's it called? In the gym. We don't really see anything about that. Now, what's it called? Here we see, it's from her perspective, so we see her fade out and then fade right back in again, and it to show the passage of time. And I think that, the room changing the way it does, the slow change of the room, is meant to be her perspective, because I think your brain wouldn't be able to process if a room got repainted entirely in 5 seconds, and you're in the room and all of a sudden, in a snap, the room's a different color. Your brain would have to fade the two together, I guess, is what they're trying to say, which I could buy. It's I don't know how my brain would process that. I mean, granted, it's if an image changed in front of me, I don't know. It's also something that wouldn't change. I don't know. It's an interesting kind of visual, but I don't know how, why it would happen like that. And I think that, what else was there? I like the relationship between Kate and Yelena. If this is where we're going to go with the new relationship between Hawkeye and between Hawkeye and Black Widow, I like where this is going. And Kate is going to have her new costume next episode, obviously, in the same way that Falcon got his costume at the end of episode 5. Here we have the guy who's making the costume go, yeah, I got a costume for you. And do you want to see them? And Clint's like, no, I just kind of want to relax a little bit. Do I think they're going to kill Kingpin next episode? I think there may be a revolt if they kill Kingpin off in the next episode. I don't think Kingpin ends up back in jail. I think Kingpin ends up scot-free. I think that an hour is not enough time to wrap up this story. So I think that kind of has to happen, where, they have to finish off and then move forward, like that kind of thing. Especially since Echo's getting her own show, and we get our first inkling that Echo is being betrayed, and Echo is finding out she's being betrayed. That Kingpin is just using her as a weapon more than anything else. So I think that what's going to end up happening is the big conflict is going to be with Echo, and we're going to get what I thought should have happened in the Wonder Woman, where it's just, between, or, let's use, a realistic one. What happened at the end of Loki? At the end of Loki, it's not a big fight conflict. It's a conversation where these people are sitting down and talking. And I like the idea that, that's what I would like to see, is an episode of something where we get what happened during the blip. Because I'm going to maintain that, based on where Daredevil ends and where this picks up, he couldn't have, Fisk had to have been blipped, and Daredevil, Fisk wasn't, Daredevil was, in Infinity War. That way, you have a reason why Fisk can rebuild his empire and build it up to this point. And we know Daredevil, does exist in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. If Fisk does, then Daredevil does too. So it'd be cool if they did a little connective tissue, like they did here with Yelena in the beginning of this episode, where it opens up with, here's what Yelena's been up to, here's what, here's what Yelena's been up to, here is what, is going on with her, even up until, it basically brings you from Black Widow to the present. Because it's presumably she talks to the friend, who immediately she returns and she immediately knows that Natasha's dead somehow. Even though, the snap happens and then they're currently the fight is currently happening. That's the thing I think that people don't really reckon with, is that when the snap happens and everyone returns, it's not even the first snap was not instant, but it was kind of a slow, I would say within probably 10 minutes it was done. Because, Clinton's entire family just vanishes, pretty quickly. But it's kind of it takes a lot to, I think that, that's the thing. It's they kind of forgot that, that fight was still ongoing. It's not like they knew in that exact second, and Natasha sacrificed herself, and, all of that. But, it's easy to figure out what happened from there. It's, she's getting brought up to speed with what happened. And then she is going to Natasha's grave, where she's going to meet with Elaine, who's going to send her off on the mission to kill Kingpin. I saw a theory online that really she's Vanessa Fisk. I don't believe that. I do believe that she's just Madam Hydra. And I think that the idea that her mom is Hydra and Fisk is working with Hydra is a cool idea. Just considering what Fisk always he hates, he has this hate for, the heroes, and he's always trying to rule with an iron fist. It would make sense that he would align with Hydra. So I don't know, and the thing is too, it's like we haven't even confirmed that Contessa de whatever the fuck her name is Madam Hydra, but we know from the comics that she's Madam Hydra, so I just refer to her as Madam Hydra because she's got a fucking long ass name that no one gives a fuck about. But the idea that this relationship, the way they do the relationship with Yelena and Kate is probably the best part of the episode. Aside from like the last 12 seconds when they reveal Kingpin and Hawkeye points that that's Kingpin, and it's like, oh cool, all right. But they talk about when the two of them are there talking, their relationship's great, and it's like Yelena making the macaroni and cheese, and the two of them just chilling eating the macaroni and cheese is hilarious. And then like Yelena trying to convince Kate to eat with her, and then criticizing Kate's life choices for like, why do you only have one fork? And Kate's like, I'm just one person. Why do I need more than one fork? And I think that the problem with the whole thing is great. The whole thing is is hilarious, and I hope that this relationship goes further. I have one small nitpick though. I genuinely hope that they do like they did with Scarlet Witch and have her slowly ditch the accent, because the accent's annoying. The Russian accent. It's grating. It's one of those things where it's like, you don't really notice it in Black Widow because she's kind of a supporting character. But in here, where she has entire long sequences of dialogue, and the thing is too, in Black Widow, she's one of like 5 characters that are doing fake Russian accents, because Rachel Weisz is doing one too, and what's his name is doing one too. Hopper from Stranger Things is doing one too. But here it's kind of noticeable because she's the only one doing the fake accent, and it's kind of like, all right, cool, you can do a fake accent. Moving along, let's get on with our day. Let's I don't need to see her do a fake accent for an entire for an entire movie. Because that would get grating very easily. Now, they are going to make more Black Widow movies. Scarlett Johansson's been on the record saying she's going to be executive producing more movies for Marvel Studios. And I think that that's, more Black Widow stuff. And I think that that's going to be Yelena's movies. And I think that, we're going to have a future with her. I hope we get this kind of, friendship between the two of them. It's a really cute friendship, the way the two of them kind of, play off of each other. Because they both have a kind of, not dry, Yelena definitely has a dry sarcasm to her. And it makes it's really funny the way she does it. And then, Kate has an endearing over-eagerness to her that play off each other well. There's a great scene where it's she's like, I'm not going to kill you. And it's the two of them have this back and forth about how if Yelena was going to kill Kate, Kate would already be dead. And it's I wouldn't even be able to close the door. And it's the way the two, and it's like the way the two of them play off of each other is really great. So I hope we get more of that in the future. And the other thing I don't like is the idea that somehow Kate was able to talk Yelena out of killing Clint. I don't think that that's necessarily something that, like, needed to happen. Because, like, you know, I just feel like it's like, you know, they don't even mention the fact that, like, what really happened. I think Clint should have gotten that chance to explain to Yelena what happened. Like, look, you know, it should have been me. And I think that's the big thing that Clint should be grappling with over the course of this show, is that it should have been him who went and took the dive off the cliff. Like, it should have been him who died and gave his life to save the universe, not Natasha. And, like, we see inklings of that, and inklings of the survivor's guilt that he has, but not enough to really make that a theme of the show, I don't think. And I think that if that was there a little bit more, to make the show a little bit better, but at this point, it's like, you know, whatever, just moving along. We got one episode left, like, there's not, like, and there's still a lot of loose ends. Well, not really. It's like, if Kingpin is the one at the end, it's, you know, one loose end, like, it's kind of like a braid more than a loose end. They gotta kind of, you know, like, rectify by the end of the show. I don't know. I feel like the show, and the thing is, too, it's like, I wonder how the Kingpin twist plays for someone who didn't like, well, twist is a loose word here. It's kind of it was kind of obvious the entire way through that that's where they were going. But I wonder how the Kingpin reveal plays for someone who didn't watch Daredevil. Because I know, like, for me, I watched Daredevil. And because I watched Daredevil, it was a big holy shit. But for someone who didn't watch Daredevil, how does it play? I think it's a valid question that I would like an answer to. So we'll wrap up there with Hawkeye episode 5. And then we'll be back next week with Hawkeye episode 6. Later tonight, we have the arrival of Spider-Man No Way Home. And I will be discussing that in a 3-part format, I believe. No, I won't be doing a 3-part format. I'll be doing 2 separate reviews, one with spoilers and one without spoilers. So I'm going to put up 2 separate versions. One will be clearly noted that there are spoilers in it. One will be clearly noted that there are no spoilers in it. So we're going to, you know, keep that on the wrap. I'm not going to do 2 tonight. I'm probably going to do the spoiler-free tonight and the spoiler-filled recap tomorrow. Only because that's a lot to record in one night, and I don't want to shortchange it or anything. So, you know, I want to let it sit, you know, like, let it stand for 20 minutes and see how it goes, you know. And unlike other movies where I'm able to see it twice in one weekend, like Spider-Man, I'm not able to see it twice this weekend because they're sold out. Tickets are sold the fuck out. And I don't know how the fuck that happened. Well, no, I know how the fuck that happened, but, you know. The cinema is not dead. So Spider-Man No Way Home, maybe American Underdog tomorrow, who knows, Hawkeye next week. Eventually I'll get around to doing my full season of, my full season review of Wheel of Time. And then, so we'll wrap up there for today. So until our next episode, have a great rest of your week. Good morning. Welcome to Beware of Spoilers. I am Adam. I am awake. I am on my way to work. Nothing more really can be asked of me at 8:57 on December 23rd. So let's talk about Hawkeye, the finale, series. Well, it hasn't been formally picked up for season 2. I don't see why they wouldn't. Well, here's the thing. I see why they shouldn't, because it's obvious the show could have been a movie, and they could have just done this as a... Like, even if they did it as a Disney Plus, 2-hour movie, it would have been doable, and we wouldn't have had that fucking nonsense all through the show. I feel like this was the least satisfying plot resolution of any of the Disney Plus shows so far. Where, I don't know how to put it really. It's it definitely was the least satisfying of them. Where WandaVision, we had the closure and we knew where we were going from here. Loki, we had the closure to the story. Not only we know where we were going from here, but there was also a what's it called? The beginning of what's it called? The promise of a season 2. Here, it's Echo's getting her own show, but we spent the entire show following Kate Bishop, and I want to know where we're going with that. And it's by far the most interesting thing on this show has been the relationship between Kate and Yelena. And the most entertaining part, where the two of them are just it's seeing the two of them on screen. They have great chemistry. I hope we get more of that in the future. But I don't know. I like the way that they're in the elevator together, and Kate keeps trying to press the buttons to stop Yelena from getting to the floor where Hawkeye is. And Yelena just keeps pushing her back against the wall every time she tries something. Because Yelena just outclassed her in every way. It's really it's fun to watch and all of that. But here's the thing. I find it funny that Vincent D'Onofrio has to talk while he does sign language to Echo, because you can't get the his speech pattern doesn't come across in sign language, but it does come across if he's talking, where it's that breathy, with the pauses and all of that. I feel and the fight between Kate and Kingpin is great too. At the end of the episode, where he just he doesn't want to fight her because he's this is not something I want to deal with, so he's just throwing her aside. And it's not even he's just shoving her, he's literally picking her up and throwing her aside, leave me the fuck alone. I have things to do. Stop bothering me. I have it's like dealing with a fly, and it's just the sense of scale between the two is just so well done. And he just gets his ass kicked up and down that movie. In that what's it called? At the end of this, he just gets his ass kicked and blown up. And now let's address the ending. The ending where he gets presumably shot in the face. There was a way to do that as a post-credit tag and not do an entire musical rendition of the first Avengers movie for 5 minutes. But that was, I think, a bigger fuck you than Howard the Duck, or Tony Stark having a therapy session with Bruce Banner, or any other or the shawarma scene, where it's here's well, where are we going next for Echo's story? How are we going to sell you on Echo? Because here's the thing, Echo has kind of tied up the loose ends, and it's we know Hawkeye's not dead because this comes from the comic, where it's Kingpin gets shot in the face, he fucks off to not Porto Maltese, that's in DC, Madripoor or some bullshit like that, some bullshit fake country, and then he gets he gets fixed, and he's blind temporarily, but that's fine. I don't think that necessarily they need to what's it called? They need to do that. They could just say she she didn't shoot him, and then just ran off, which would be, equally good. Because we don't see her, shoot him. We don't see the body. If there's no body, they're not dead. And I think that they killed off fucking Kingpin after making such a grand, gesture about bringing him back in this way. And after bringing back Daredevil in No Way Home, I feel like that would leave a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths. I feel, at least. It would bother me as a Daredevil fan. Let's see, what else have we got in this episode? I mean, the episode's largely forgettable. Also, that could partially be because I watched The Matrix Resurrections right after. And I feel like it's like, it just, like, the plot doesn't really get resolved. Because, like, it's not like, they're going to change anything going forward. It's going to be the same, like everything is still happening. Like, Hawkeye gets home for Christmas. Cool, I guess. I wasn't rooting one way or the other for that. Like, it's such a dumb, arbitrary time scale to add to a series that, like, had this ended in, like, June wouldn't have been a thing. Getting rid of the Ronin suit is just something that should have happened toward the beginning. Not, now. It should have happened after Endgame, not now. So, yeah, it just, like, a lot of what happened is, like, okay, well, why is this a thing that we have to deal with? What the fuck are you doing? What else do I have? I don't know. It's not even like there's anything in this episode that's particularly interesting. Like, they managed to make the return of Kingpin not interesting, because it's just kind of confusing, where it's like, look, they could have done something cool, where it's like, here's how he got dusted, or here's how, here's something else, or, like, there are so many opportunities to do cool things, and then they just didn't do it. And I feel like the other thing that they did that was a bad idea was making Linda Cardinelli Mockingbird, because I think it almost certainly at this point we're not getting what's it called? We're not getting Mockingbird in a movie. I think that's almost certain, because it's like, if they were going to do Mockingbird, wouldn't they just, like, have done it by now? And it's like, where does this fit in? Like, if this is the last episode for Hawkeye, just get over, motherfucker. If this is Hawkeye's last adventure, I mean, it's probably not. They're probably going to have him come back for something else in the future. But if this is it, and this is where we're ending off, then I feel like there's no room to do that. And it feels like they're being very selective in what they add over from S.H.I.E.L.D., because, from the TV verse, because, like, Mockingbird was on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Bobby Morse, and she, now she's not canon anymore, I guess, which is weird, because, like, it was the first TV show to be acknowledged out of all of them. So yeah, I don't quite understand what was going on there. But at the end of the day, it's like, it feels like the character's just being, wasted. Where they could have done anything else with the character, and it just kind of feels like they had this idea of what they were going to do, and they were like, fuck it, we'll do that, and that's it. And then it's like, well, what about, going forward with this? What if we want to take this character forward in the future, or do something with her? Because there was a big push in the comics for her to do things. I think Gail Simone wrote it for a while. Like, they had her for a bit, and they just didn't do it. So yeah, what else did really happen? It's like, Vera Farmiga was the bad guy, which probably we should have expected, because she was the bad guy. Like, that's what she does now. So that's cool, I guess. Jack Duquesne is kind of a joke in this episode. the LARPers have too big of a role. And the thing is, too, I think that they forgot early on that this specific LARP convention was police and fire department. Which is kind of getting into this episode, kind of a big deal, considering they were acting as, security to an extent. Like, they were adding, additional support to, to Hawkeye, to the Hawkeyes, on the ground at the party. And it's like, well, yeah, why are they doing that? They don't need to be doing that. As these things, they could have just been police. And I understand why Marvel wouldn't use police now. I understand it, but at the same time, don't introduce that as part of the group's lore or the group's, introduction. Oh, by the way, these are all police and fire department people. And then have that amount to nothing. Because, crowd control is what police and fire departments are meant to do. It just doesn't make sense to me that was introduced and then entirely ignored. And the thing is, too, it's there was an opportunity to do the button pressing, with the thing that, Clint showed her earlier, and then it just didn't. So it's so that entire sequence was pointless then. And the thing is, too, they set themselves up with a scene where that could have been used, and then they just didn't use it. I don't know, it feels like this episode took a lot of bad decisions. Like I said, I think Kingpin will be back. I think it's ridiculous to assume that Kingpin is dead. I feel like that's not, after everything this character has gone through, and after everything that has happened with this nonsense, for him to come back for a very small in-a-picture cameo in one episode, and then have 3 scenes in this episode, and then to kill him off, and this is Wilson Fisk. I mean, he's, regardless of the fact that he got 3 seasons, or 2 seasons and, 2 episodes on Daredevil, regardless of that, he also has, he is one of the, if not the biggest, street-level Marvel villain. He is the biggest, bad guy that they have on the ground level. I think that it'd be a complete waste for them to just, do that and then kill him off immediately. And again, I don't think they did, because the comic, they didn't do that. In the comic, that happens, and he actually does get shot in the face, and he's, he gets better. So I feel like this is not a waste of time to watch. I don't want to say that, but it's an exercise in why do a series when you could do a movie, and the movie would have been a lot better and tighter. And I think that's the problem with this, where it's really it's 4 or 5 hours, and it's this really could have just been 1 2-hour movie if you cut a lot out of it. And the thing is, too, it's you can't, it's not like you're cutting a lot and you're taking a machete to it and it's oh god, that's not good. It's, you're not doing enough cutting in pre-production if you're getting this outcome. So I think we'll wrap up there for today. Later today, whenever I leave work, I don't know when that will be, but whenever I leave work, I will record the episode based on the Matrix Resurrections. I do have thoughts on that as well, and it's not as bad as Kingsman, but it is not great. But we'll talk about that later today. So until then, have a great rest of your day.